Everyone, thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about sales tax. Sales tax can kind of feel overwhelming sometimes, especially when you're selling in multiple states. And today we're really going to break that down into some actionable steps to help you stay compliant and avoid any kind of surprises. As Proverbs says in 16:3, it says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he'll establish your plans." So when we approach complex tasks like managing your sales tax, create a solid foundation for success. Let's dive into this important topic and figure out how we can take the mystery out of sales tax. My name is Jacob Curtis. I am a CPA, a certified profit first professional, and a business coach. And I started Curtis Accounting Solutions to really remove the stress of doing bookkeeping, payroll, and taxes, and to provide some practical business advice that really helps stores piece together financial freedom. I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions on today's episode. So please leave a comment below and remember to like, share, follow, subscribe, all those good things. In case you're wondering, sales tax is a percentage-based tax charged at the point of sale for goods and some services. While the customer pays the tax, it's actually the responsibility of the business owner to collect and remit that tax to the taxing authority. Let's look at a quick example. Let's say that you sell a $50 product with a sales tax rate of 6%. The customer actually will end up paying you $53. Now, the $3 is not your profit. It's not your money, but it's really a tax that you collected and that you've got to forward on to the state. And failure to remit this sales tax can lead to some pretty big penalties and audits and things like that, which can disrupt your business and ultimately your reputation. Imagine a scenario where a business fails to remit their sales tax that they collected $10,000 on in collected taxes over the last few months. And that state could impose some pretty hefty fines up to 25%, which results in an additional $2,500 that you got to owe. And this is why it's really important to understand how tax works and taking that first step towards compliance so you can really focus on growing your store. So nexus is the legal term that refers to your connection to a state, determining whether you're required to collect and remit sales tax there. Physical nexus occurs when you have a physical presence there, like a warehouse or an office or an employee working in that state. Even temporary physical presence, such as attending a trade show or having some inventory stored at a third-party warehouse, like an Amazon fulfillment center, can establish nexus. Economic nexus applies when your sales or your transaction count exceeds a certain threshold. For example, many states require businesses to collect sales tax if their sales exceed $100,000 or 200 transactions. However, these thresholds really do vary by state. For example, California, their threshold is $500,000 in sales. So to give you a clear picture, let's look at an example and just see if this makes sense. So if you have a Shopify store that sells a $25 product and you reach 200 transactions into a certain state and you've only sold $5,000 worth of sales, while the sale amount doesn't trigger the nexus, it's actually the number of transactions does. This example won't trigger nexus in California because you haven't hit that $500,000 threshold for California. But if these sales were all into the South Dakota, where that threshold is 200 transactions, now you all of a sudden, even though it's only $5,000 in sales, because of the number of transactions, you've now got a nexus into South Dakota. This is make the assumption, of course, that all of those 200 transactions went into South Dakota. So you've got to understand each state's rules to really understand where you have nexus and to figure out where you got to pay attention and register and collect sales tax in. So the first step, like I was just saying, is to determine your sales tax obligations. And that's really by identifying where you meet nexus thresholds. Now, Shopify has some tools to really make it easy to start reporting. So you can report and track sales by state. For example, let's say you sell $80,000 worth of products in Florida and $50,000 in Texas. Well, Florida's threshold is $100,000. So you're not required to collect sales tax there yet. But in Texas, you've exceeded the $50,000 threshold, so now you've got to start collecting sales tax. Also important to monitor your growth. If you're nearing thresholds in multiple states, maybe set up some alerts or watch those more closely so you can be prepared for registering and being compliant in those states. For instance, if your average monthly sales into a new state is $8,000, you're going to hit that $100,000 threshold in about a year. So planning ahead can really help you register on time and avoid any kind of potential penalties. So after determining where you have nexus, the next step is to actually register. We kind of hinted at that, but the next step is actually to register with the state for a sales tax permit in those states. Each state kind of has its own process and timeline, so it's important to really stay organized to understand where you got to go. For example, if you're attending a trade show in Texas, you might need a temporary sales tax permit to cover that event. Now, these permits often are easier to obtain and valid for a short period of time. In contrast, a permanent permit may require you to file a regular sales tax return and remit taxes on a regular basis. In Colorado, for example, a permanent permit costs $16 for 2 years plus a one-time fee of $50 deposit. So failing to register on a one-time can result in many penalties. So plan ahead to try and avoid these unnecessary fines if possible. Now, temporary permits, while simpler, still require you to remit any taxes that you collected during that event, and usually within 30 days of the event ending. Shopify actually has a lot of powerful tools to simplify the sales tax management, and I would encourage you to enable that automatic tax setting. Shopify calculates sales tax based on the customer's location. So let's say that you sell apparel in New York. Clothing items under $110 are exempt from the state's 4% sales tax. However, local taxes may still apply unless the locality has opted to provide the exemption. By configuring your tax overrides, you can ensure that Shopify charges correct amounts automatically, keeping you compliant and saving time. It's also good practice to periodically review your tax settings, at least annually, if not more often. For example, sales tax in some states like Kansas or New Jersey and many others actually may change on an annual basis, if not more frequently. So updating your rates ensures that your customers are charged correctly and that you're being compliant and avoiding any kind of compliance issues. Now, some states require sales tax to be remitted monthly, quarterly, annually. Just kind of depends on your sales volume and their rules. But tools like TaxJar or Avalara or others can automate this process and make sure that you're actually filing accurate, timely sales tax returns and payments. So, for example, if you collect $3,000 in sales tax in January, you might remit it on a monthly basis in California, but only quarterly in Florida. And missing a deadline could result in penalties up to 10% or more of the tax that's actually owed. So automating these filings also helps you avoid human errors. Imagine inputting $5,000 instead of $500 for remittance. Automation really ensures accurate filings and freeing up time for you to really strategically build your business and plan out what you've got to do. So to wrap up here, 3 key takeaways. First, identify where you have nexus, register for those sales tax permits. And second, use Shopify's tools to simplify collection and compliance. And third, consider automating the filings to save some time and reduce your errors. Again, this proverb reminds us, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he'll establish your plans. So by managing your sales tax obligations with integrity, you are setting the stage for sustained growth. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. I will be more than happy to schedule to talk with you. And remember, schedule a call with me to get started by scanning the QR code on the screen, clicking the first pinned comment below, or going to jacobcurtiscpa.com/7-Shopify mistakes-calendar to get started. And remember to follow me, Jacob Curtis, CPA, and Curtis Accounting Solutions on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later.